Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's weekly energy boost. My name is Elisheva, and I have with me this morning the best, I would say, my personal authority when it comes to talking about today's topic, which we titled Spiritual Self-Defense. What's the word? I called in a favor. And I brought my husband on the show because David gave me another opportunity to navigate change late last night. And I was so excited because thanks to you guys, hopefully if you had a chance to hear last week's episode, you know that I got to work on my spiritual muscles last week. This week, I am just so excited because it really did work out perfectly. And this morning we're going to be talking about spiritual self-defense as part of our month-long discussion on living authentically and really tapping into our natural abilities, which is constant connection, inspiration, creativity, knowing, flowing, that really should be our normal operating mode, and yet we have all these different barriers that prevent us from living there. And I think other people's energy, other people's actions, oftentimes we let other people's, even their opinions of us, interfere with the choices that we make on our spiritual journey. So today we're going to talk about maintaining integrity and courage and protecting ourselves really against situations in which our spiritual connection or well-being could be compromised. And that is why my husband is here with us. He is an expert, I would say, in all things energetic. He's obviously been on the show many times, often talking about sleep and dreams. And we had you on the show a few months ago to talk about cleansing our spaces, right? Our homes, our offices. And we've talked about angels. So I think in a way today's topic brings together all of those, probably. Bring the microphone closer to you so we'll be able to hear you or your words of wisdom. How would you like to start off the conversation this morning?
First of all, I'm very happy to be here, to spend the quality time with you and to share. So it's a win-win. I think it starts with a question that I share sometimes with people about what do you think, what is the most important relationship in your life? What would you say is the most important relationship in your life?
You're talking to me?
Yes.
With the Creator?
Right. So that's what most of the people that are spiritual will answer. And there's other relationships that we might be aware of it, might be aware of them. And some people say, maybe those that are less into spirituality would say maybe their spouse or the kids are the most meaningful relationship with them that they have. And there's three other relationships that when you develop those relationships, and one of them is with your soul, being true to yourself, when you develop those relationships, you create a spiritual shield that protects you. Because the reality is, the Zohar, the main text of Kabbalah, is teaching us that there's tons of forces, not necessarily positive, not necessarily there, more like to oppose to us, that are out there and actually near us. And the more you are, this is kind of a sort of a paradox, the more you are on the spiritual path, the more energy you have to offer, so there's going to be more resistance on those forces trying to oppose to you. So it's sort of funny, but that really the energy, the more I'm on the spiritual path, it's supposed to be more enlightened, yes. And at the same time, I'm talking to people and they say, I never had something, if I had the opportunity that I have today, in the 5 years ago, what I'm facing right now, 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to handle it. So the growth, the spiritual growth, also comes with more of those forces that are there to oppose to us.
Well, I think first of all, we need to ask the question, how is it even possible that another person can interfere with my spiritual path? Or, I mean, David said a couple weeks ago on the show, which I think ruffled a lot of people's feathers, is he said something like, for every positive, like we need to know that whatever we set out to do, the universe is designed that there will be opposition. And I think people got upset by that or scared of it, because if my intentions are positive and I want to do something good in the world, why is there opposition? And we talked a little bit about it then, but part of what I think is important to bring to the forefront, like you said, not only is the opposition specifically designed for us, but it's actually handling it is the way that we reveal. How we handle it is what reveals light. I don't want to get into too many details yesterday, but we had an opportunity yesterday, and it's one of the opportunities in my personal life that requires the greatest amount of restriction for me. And there was this part of me that said, I really don't want to do this. Like I don't have the strength. I want to relax on my Sunday. And at the same time, I realized that the universe is really, by inviting me into this scenario with this other person, I'm being given the opportunity to grow my spiritual muscles even more. So on one hand, and to me that's a two-part process. First, it's the recognition and perhaps even the excitement that here I'm getting an opportunity. I don't know what kind of blessings I'm going to earn by making this spiritual effort, but also making that conscious effort. This is a person, let's say, who triggers me, is a lot of the things that I strive not to be. It's hard for me to witness their behavior even sometimes, but I know, so part of it is not stooping to that level, not trying to correct her or fix her. That's another big thing, because there is this version of me that exists in some parallel universe that wants to say, shut up, or stop it, or do you not hear yourself? Like, there is a part of me, and I don't sit there fuming. I don't want it honestly doesn't. Once I became aware of it a number of years ago, it didn't take as much energy. But my point in sharing this example is that when I give it energy, when I let her bring me down, when I roll my eyes at her, or I sigh at something she said, I'm actually making myself vulnerable to negativity. That's really why I wanted to bring it up. It's like I recognized yesterday that I have this awesome opportunity, not only not to lower myself, to stoop to that level, not only not to get defensive or argue or critical, but literally the universe is telling me, here is a few hours where here's your mission, should you choose to accept it, your spiritual protective shield will be fortified because you didn't allow. It's like the version of what she does, it's like throwing ping pongs at me, and by not reacting to the ping pongs, I develop a bulletproof vest. How's that for a metaphor? By not reacting to the ping pongs that get thrown at you, you strengthen yourself so that also bullets cannot penetrate that shield.
And I think the key with building a shield and generating that energy, the key word is momentum. Because it's very similar, in my metaphor, my worlds of metaphors, it's very similar to riding a bike. Once you push the pedals, there's movement, there is speed. The moment you stop pushing and you're just resting on the pedals, that's the moment that you lose in speed. So, in a way, the way we want to look at our energy shield that is around us, our energy field, which is a combination of our own energy, our soul, angels around us that are created by our actions and by our words. The idea is that I want to be as much as possible generating energy. So sometimes we can't say that we can be fully on all the time. It's impossible. But the idea is that I can generate right now if I'm going against my comfort zone, if I'm sharing, if I'm choosing happiness, maybe if I'm not able to be happy, at least to embrace, and I'm generating enough energy that can last, this shield can last for a longer period of time. This shield can shine for a longer period of time. So it doesn't mean that we need to be on all the time, and at the same time, it's really a journey to develop a greater connection to our soul, a greater connection to the Creator, a greater connection to the angels that are around us. And the Zohar speaks also about receiving support from righteous souls that can support us. So all these four relationships allow us to continuously strengthen our energy shield. I mean, even when you're asleep, you're not conscious of your energy shield. Your body is vulnerable because the majority of your soul has left the physical reality. So who protects you? What protects you while you're asleep? So there's the energy that you generated in the day prior to your sleep is there to serve you, the angels that you created, how much more you're in touch with your soul, with the Creator, and also maybe with the righteous souls that can be your spiritual mentors. That determines also the level of shield that you have throughout the night.
What does it mean to be in touch with your soul?
So the way I like to share it is like dating. When you start to date someone, people are usually more sensitive, more considerate, as opposed to, let's say, being married. So in the beginning, it's like, where would you like to go? Where would you like? What do you feel like doing? And maybe when you get married, it's more like, this is what I want to do. Would you like to do it with me? So that sensitivity in the beginning, because you don't really know yet the person, it's still that journey, that sensitivity. Imagine you dating your soul. And to ask your soul questions throughout the day. What will make you happy right now? What do you feel like doing right now that will shine your greatest light? So asking those questions throughout the day, more and more, like really, because you're dating your soul, you want to get to know your soul better. So you want to know what makes your soul happy. What your soul would feel more comfortable with right now. Even in conversations, let's say someone put you on the spot. It's a very uncomfortable situation. You don't know what to say. You don't know if you should say something that will be like pleasing to them, or you should say something that is more real. Like, what do you really feel? You don't want to hurt them. Why are you breaking your head? Ask your soul. What do you feel is the best answer I should give to this individual? And the more and more you listen to your soul and ask those questions, the more you develop that guidance. And as a result, that dating becomes a relationship. That there's more and more guidance from your soul.
Okay. Let's talk about the things that we unknowingly do that actually prevent us from having as secure of a shield as we would like. Also because, right, we said before, I don't realize that getting upset at the I don't know, let's say you go to the grocery store and there's somebody who is aggressive or cuts in line in front of you in the grocery store, in traffic, and anywhere. Sometimes you see things that I had a meeting with someone a couple weeks ago, and she just shared with me all these scenarios that she got really reactive in, but they were like on the phone with airline customer service, on the phone trying to place an order for dog food, on the phone, you know, or in the supermarket parking lot where someone was actually trying to help her. And we talked about how part of the shift in those scenarios is to realize I need to be more
proactive.
No. Proactive is already so spiritual. It's more of, you know, my energy is so valuable. Why would I waste it on arguing with someone in the grocery store parking lot? My energy is so precious. It really is valuing your energy, right? So there's one level of understanding of I have to recognize how valuable my energy is, and I don't want to waste it on anything. And two is that the realization that, yes, on one hand, in my life, I'm trying to be proactive. I'm trying to be more generous. I'm trying to be more compassionate, more patient, whatever your laundry list is. But at the same time, every time I don't do those things, I'm not only not doing those things, I'm also poking holes in the energy that I'm trying to generate for myself, which is protecting me. Does that make sense? That there's words that we say, there's actions that we do. Our reactions are mostly are guilty of this, or they're to blame, but we're the ones who really have it's like blaming the gun rather than the hand who pulled the trigger. We blame the gun, but it's really the hand that holds the trigger that we need to be looking more at, and recognizing that when I get upset, when I get angry, when I get frustrated, when I mutter something under my breath that I'm saying quietly because it's not nice to say it out loud, I've still said it, and those words poke holes in that shield.
It's like when I'm extremely wealthy and I'm aware that I'm extremely wealthy, am I more aware of my spending? And the answer that we want to give to ourselves is yes. I mean, some people might think that the fact that I have more wealth, I'm very rich, I'm very wealthy, I can spend the money right and left. But by being aware, when I'm aware that I'm wealthy in terms of energy, that my energy, like my dear wife said, very precious, then I get to be more conscious on the energy that I'm spending. So as you grow your spiritual wealth, which is being aware of how special I am, how much value am I bringing to the day-to-day, how much energy am I bringing to even the smallest actions, it gets to a place, of course, with humility, that I'm more aware of where am I giving my energy. It can even be, let alone negativity or being reactive, it can even be about choosing what am I going to do now. I have two choices between being on this show or doing something else, having a conversation with this individual, or being busy with this project. And that energy, okay, I have right now this given time. How can I use, if we use the metaphor of the money, but how can I use my time, my energy in the most valuable way? And that's another way to generate more of this energy, of the shield, of the protection. Because those that are really aware of their spiritual wealth, they get to use it in a more, like the money goes longer way, that energy. So I can have a conversation of 30 seconds with a certain individual. I can send one message, forget even about a conversation. But because I'm so aware of my spiritual wealth, and I want to use it so in so cautiously. Like I remember from our teachers, Rav and Karen, you would come with the whole story, like what's going on, and this is a story, what should I do? And you would get an answer that sometimes it's one word, sometimes it's one sentence, sometimes it's just a look. And by the look, you know the answer. Because when you are spiritually wealthy, energetically, you understand your wealth, you use in every cent of your energy, you use it in the most powerful way. It's condensed, like a laser beam.
Concentrated.
Yes.
What about genuine, it's funny even to say it, there's obviously situations that we go into that we are drained. There are draining situations. I think the most generic and perhaps common one that I can think of is like spending the day at the DMV, or that's maybe a poor example because it's simply it's also a time suck, so it does feel like a waste of time. But there are people that we have in our lives that it's draining to be with them, it's draining to talk to them, it's draining to spend time with them, it's draining to think about how you're going to have to spend time with them. We're all going into the holiday season now. It seems to come up in every other episode where we're going to have to be with our families. What do you do when you're in a situation where sometimes it's unexpected, sometimes the drain is unexpected, sometimes it's predictable? How can we be better about conserving our energy, defending ourselves against those energy suckers or energy vampires, in a proactive way, not to wait till we realize, hey, they're draining my energy? Well, again, it's situational. Sometimes you don't realize it until you're on half a tank already. But how can we obviously, we say we have a choice in everything. So what is the choice we can make differently in those scenarios?
So I remember from our teacher, from Karen, that Karen would advise us when we ask this particular question, before you enter the meeting, if you know that it might be draining, and even if you don't know, it's always helpful to do that, to imagine a ball of white light surrounding you when you're about to enter the room, enter the conversation. And throughout the whole meeting, throughout the whole conversation, throughout the whole scenario, you are in this energy field, in this ball of light that protects you. So that allows you to be more conscious of that energy field. On top of that, I would say one of the things you can do is like to take a deep breath, right? Like before you go in under the water, like to take a deep breath before you enter in the conversation, enter in the scenario.
I like that scenario because it's applicable. Bobby is saying, for example, being at the hospital with a loved one, right? That's not a situation any of us would choose. And obviously there is a lot of darkness, and I don't mean darkness in an angry way, right? Sadness. People are struggling with illness and loss there are definitely places in the hospital that are joyous and happy. But the majority of the time that we unfortunately spend in hospitals in our life is visiting someone who is sick or injured. And it's just in general a naturally draining experience. So using that as a very relatable, I apologize to the DMV for incriminating them. Visiting the hospital, especially when it's someone who's close to you and it's something that needs to be done regularly.
So one of the keys is really to, let's say when you have a bank account, you want to make sure that there's some money there that is used just in case there is some money that is there, just in case that you really need to spend it and it's unexpected. So if you look at your energy as your reservoir or as a spiritual reservoir of energy, we want to make sure that throughout the day, throughout the week, we fill up that reservoir, because we don't know when we're going to need to use it. So yes, you have some money maybe in a saving account or in a certain investment, but you always have to keep some extra cash in order to use it in times that you need to use it. So in a similar way, if someone goes now to visit a loved one in a hospital, the work that is done is not when you're already there. It's more about how much energy you put in that reservoir before you enter the hospital, before you go to that visit. How much are you charging your spiritual battery so you're able to give, to share, to really be present in that situation? So it's like, just reminds me like computer games, right? Like you are the hero and you have like this power bar, and you go into a fight, and that power bar goes lower, but you still have like that life force within you. But because you got discharged before you entered the battle, then you are able to fight and actually to win. So it's in between those scenarios that we get to charge our energy. Now, there's another question. What happens if you are continuously drained by the environment that you're in, drained by a certain individual, drained by a certain scenario? What do you do then? Like, how do you don't even have the time to recharge. And for this, we have different Kabbalistic tools that allow us to charge as we go. It's like you have the cell phone and you have a battery in the case, or like a mobile battery that you take with you in case your battery is drained, right? So I don't have time right now. I don't have time right now to go into a meditation and to charge my battery before I enter that room, that conversation, that situation. And I'm already feeling drained. There are certain tools that you can do, that you can use on the go in order to charge your battery. And there are certain tools that you can use in between to have a quick charge. Back to you.
Are you going to tell us about them, or are you just going to say there are tools and...
Yes. So there are more...
Well, you know what? One
yes.
second. Before you go there, I think it's important because one of the things on the to talk about list today is energy vampires. And the truth is, even though we're talking about it, we are going to talk about it. We did an episode a couple years ago called How to Protect Yourself from Evil Eye or something like that. And that's really specifically dedicated to talking about people who wish ill for you or have negative feelings towards you. And it really does deserve its own episode. So if it's not something that you heard before, you want a reminder, it's particularly relevant for you right now, I recommend you go back either on YouTube or in your podcast app and find it. It was a very powerful, I think it's one of our most listened to episodes of all time, because it really is relevant to very specific situations. So I don't want to discount it. It is important, but we really don't. Since we have an episode about it already, we're not going to get too much into it now. I think now we're really going to talk more about those draining situations, or also I think the unconscious, when someone is unconsciously a spiritual threat, when you're not even aware they're a spiritual threat, or you walk into a situation where you're making yourself particularly vulnerable. What are some of the tools that we can use in those situations?
Right. So just briefly, there are the tools that you use in between those situations, like the Zohar, the 72 Names of God.
Well, one second. The Zohar, we talk about the Zohar often on the show as the source of what we're actually discussing, the source of the wisdom that we share on Weekly Energy Boost. The Zohar is one of the most often quoted sources of wisdom. The Zohar is also, though, a spiritual tool for protection. It's something that here I can, for those of you that are watching on the video cast,
the live model.
I keep a couple of these in my purse. I give them away all the time. This is actually the volume for healing and protection. We have full-size volumes and whatnot. But one of the reasons I keep it in my purse and I give it away constantly is because not only does it have the wisdom about healing and protection, it also carries the energy of healing and protection with it. If you're someone who's sensitive to energy, if you're, a lot of us use crystals and other sage, we use other tools to connect to different energies. What I'm saying is we use physical objects to affect our energy in a positive way. The Zohar operates on a very similar idea. It has a certain frequency. It's been actually tested before, and so that's why it's almost like the most basic of the basic is to have the Zohar near you, around you, and to be able to use it if you're comfortable with it. But at the very most basic level, it's simply a tool for protection.
Yeah. So another one would be, again, in between, like using a meditation known as the Anabeco. It's not like closing your eyes. You can even get it on...
it's like a chant or a
it's
mantra.
like a chant. 7 quick lines that you can say before you enter the meeting, or even whisper to yourself or say silently when you are in the situation with that individual, with that vampire. and that really creates the protection. It generates beautiful, beautiful energy. Now, there are things that are with you that create the energy while you're in the situation, create the energy of protection. So you've heard probably before about the red string that we tie on our left hand, coming from Rachel the matriarch, being charged with the energy. Red is the energy of it's a color that draws energy, and it's made from wool. So it's also the fabric that the wool is drawing more energy, and that causes us the energy of protection by reminding us the being aware not to create an opening for negativity. So that's the red string. There's another tool that you can use, which is using one of the names from the 72 names of God. It can be Aleph Lamed Daled for the looks can kill, the evil eye, or the Yud 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 for stopping fatal attraction. By spinning them counterclockwise around you, you create
like creating a cocoon.
Yeah, like a wall of fire that creates the shield. And there's one tool that is, I would say, less known. I don't think we ever spoke about it. We've ever spoken about it before. There's a tool, something that we do, which is to create a necklace.
It's like what I think would be called in traditional English an amulet or a talisman, but it's personalized to the individual as well.
Right.
It's not a generic combination of names and letters and drawings. It's really unique to the individual.
So whoever makes it basically receives your request and your name and your mother's name, so it can be more personalized to you, and match into this request the different sections from the Zohar, different holy names, different names of angels that correspond to supporting your request. That individual creates, based on this, it's a very ancient Moroccan Kabbalistic technology, writing on a parchment that request in a very specific way, and that creates an angel that when you wear that necklace, that angel is behind you and is there to support you, to support your request. It doesn't do the work for you, but it's really giving you the energy boost. It's like if I'm giving you glasses, it doesn't mean that you're going to see. You still need to open up your eyes and read and see. So it doesn't do the work for you, but it gives you the energy boost to create that protection. And when you come to situations that are draining, that are taking your energy, people that are there to harm, and some people might be with good intentions, but it just doesn't come out right.
I find myself, we're lucky enough to live in a spiritual community. Our colleagues are spiritual, hopefully even our neighbors, their family, etc. We live in like this little bubble. And every so often we have to leave the bubble. This is why I always use the example of the grocery store, because
We're going in.
That's as far as I like to travel outside the bubble.
Cover me.
Exactly. And sometimes I hear people say things, whether to me, to one another, and I'm so flabbergasted. Like, how can you say that? I don't know, example, in the supermarket, let's say, be careful, or someone says to someone in the supermarket, be careful, you're going to slip and break your neck. And I'm thinking to myself, we don't say things like that. What are you doing?
Don't say that which we don't want to happen.
Right. We teach our kids, we don't verbalize anything we don't want to happen. And in at least American society, I know we have listeners from around the world, there's a lot of slang and a lot of language in English that we say that we really don't want to happen. I had a conversation with a student recently about this idea exactly, that when you start to be aware of your words, it's really kind of shocking. So part of the awareness of creating those spiritual defenses, the reserve, so that even when you do encounter a scenario that is draining, depleting, dangerous even. I remember when I started to be a teacher years and years and years ago, one of the first people I was working with told me that she believes that her mother did black magic on her. And what brought her to study the wisdom of Kabbalah was to explore tools to defend herself against what she thinks her mother did to her. I don't know. Have you ever gone into that with? I mean, that's not something I ever explored. And of course, the first thing I said to her was, let's start with the Zohar. That's the very basic level of protection. I encouraged her also to participate in spiritual connections in a community, because one of the benefits of that, I use the example that our teacher Karen Berg would use. One thread, one rope, or one thread can only pull so much, but when you band together with a group of other people, it forms a strong rope, and you're able to draw down that much more energy. Now, maybe today it's not as easy. It's certainly not, the spiritual community gatherings are not as large as they once were. I think most of them probably happen online, and that's not a contradiction. It's not about physically being in the same room with people. It's really doing something together. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening to explore that, right? It's obviously meditation on your own is very important. Prayer on your own is very important. But participating in group spiritual connections as a group is even more powerful. What else would you say to someone who feels like they might be the target, I guess I would say, of something like that?
Well, it's interesting because I feel also I'm very sensitive to energies. Like you mentioned, the supermarket, it's like when we go out of the bubble, it's like I'm always like, that's what I feel. Like I'm like so alert, so sensitive to whatever people are saying. And obviously there's a balance. I mean, you can't be obsessed about it. Like you have to live your life. And sometimes you have to go out there, outside of the bubble, right? We have work to do, even though many people now work from home.
Well, that's probably one of the happy accidents of the past year and a half, is that people realize how important their energy is and how affected they are by being outside. And the less we're outside, the less vulnerable we are. I don't even mean to say in a viral way. I mean like energetic.
Yeah, but the viral way is a result of the energy that when you are in your home, you are more protected than when you're outside, right? And even
that to me goes back to what you said before about being more conscious of how you spend your energy, right? If you're, again, people can spend hours on social media or watching the news and literally vomit out their energy, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to leave your house in order to waste your energy. There's a lot of easy ways to waste your energy at home. But as far as making yourself vulnerable, I think that's what we're talking about.
Right. And, just it reminds me of my mom, right? Like I speak with my parents, and it's like my mom is like spinning out everything that is happening right now. Oh, did you see in the news? And it's just, every time I go into that conversation, I gotta be ready. But there are very powerful souls that probably even are not aware that they are powerful souls. And you don't need to use like voodoo dolls to, like you mentioned, like this person that their mother did, like, you don't need to know even black magic to take energy from someone. And it's, or there are people that, they start to talk and maybe they talk like a bit slow, or they're clingy, they have like clingy energy, and you maybe someone that asks you a question, you gave them the answer and they keep on asking another question and another question, another question, and you're starting to feel like the air is being sucked out of you, right? And so it doesn't have to be like the official black magic.
Black magic wizard.
Yeah. So really, like it's coming down to this energy, and I'm gonna say here something that might be a bit counterintuitive: generating happiness. Before you enter the meeting, before you enter the scenario, but when you enter and you have the support, let's say you have the necklace, you have the red string, you did Anabeco, you read Zohar, you did everything you could, and still the energy is draining you. You know what? What else you have to do?
I'll tell
you gotta start laughing about it. Oh my God, they're draining my energy.
I'll give you a more
it's
logical.
It's so exciting.
I'll give you a more
and by
logical
this,
explanation
the happiness
in a second.
creates the energy that defies the sadness, defies the vulnerability. The happiness is awakening back the shield. Woohoo!
But there is logic there. It's basically that, and I think there's research done on this, even on a medical or scientific level, that when people are sad, their immune system is compromised.
Right, the T cells go low.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the same idea. Or where they see that people, there's tons of research, right? Patch Adams, the whole movie was based on this.
I love
that
this movie.
People who are ill and make an effort to laugh something like 30 minutes a day, their odds of recovery are many, many, many times higher than somebody who is not consciously.
Yeah, laughing yoga, but I'm not talking about like the guy is draining your energy. You're not going to laugh in his face.
No, but that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that the state of happiness itself creates defense.
Right.
That's the idea. That when a person who is subject to illness is happy, their defenses are increased. In the same way on a spiritual level, when we are happy, honestly, the highest level of happiness is happiness for no reason. Unconditional happiness, not happiness because I have a vacation coming up or I won the lottery or I'm looking forward to my date Saturday night. Are we going on a date Saturday night?
Yes.
Now we are. But that idea that the happiness, simple happiness for no reason, unconditional happiness is actually one of the best medicines. And I'll tell you, I was watching something with my older kids last night, and one of the characters said, what's the best revenge against, well, this is a longer story, but I've said this before, the best revenge against the other person is proving them wrong. And I think that when it comes to people who consciously want to take your energy, and sometimes it's subconscious in terms of they're thinking, I love being around you, I love how I feel after I spend time with you. The subtext is, I want your energy, I love taking your energy. And it doesn't matter if this is a person you've just met, right? The example you used before about some of you realize they're talking slowly, they keep asking the same questions over and over again. Or it's some of us, I'm sure all of us at one point or another, have had friends who ask you what that you think they should do, but then don't do it, and then call you again and ask you again the same question, or they ask you for advice and they don't take it. That's another form of it, right? So what we want to do, especially this week, I guess everybody's assignment for the week is first and foremost, date your soul. I think that was really
Right.
one of the most powerful ways to get in touch with reinforcing and strengthening that natural state of connectedness, protection, energized being, because that's who we are in our natural state. It's the reactive behavior, it's the challenging situations, it's not being proactive, that those are the things that lower our own frequency and then make us susceptible to other people's energies. 2 is become more familiar with the tools you can use proactively, whether it's prayer, meditation, you mentioned the Anabeco, maybe it's Zohar or any of the other things that we talked about. And I think 3rd is being also conscious, it's actually connected to the red string a little bit, being conscious about how we willingly give our energy away. We willingly, whether it's social media, trying to prove people wrong, getting sucked up into the news feed, gossiping. There's a lot of things we do that we are willingly taking a bucket and emptying our reservoir of the spiritual energy that the rest of our waking hours and sometimes sleeping hours, we make the conscious effort to conserve. And then at the end of the day, we wonder why we're so drained. Here's why. Last thoughts before I close out the show?
I think 2 things. One is set your intention. You go into a meeting, you start your day, I'm going to have the most fun out of it. Even if it's you going into the drain, let's make the best out of it. I'm already in the situation. I can't get out of the ride, so let's make the best of the ride. That's one thing. Second thing, to add to my dear wife, in terms of something to focus on for this week, maybe see one of the 4 relationships that we mentioned. Creator, relationship with your soul, relationship with the angels, and even the righteous souls. Maybe see which one of them you feel you want to strengthen more, you want to focus more. And we offer for each and every one of those 4 in the center different ways that you can strengthen those relationships. Whether it's with the Creator, asking more questions for the Creator, your soul, dating your soul, the angels, we have different ways to strengthen our connection, and also with the righteous souls, identifying them, being able to walk with them. How do you walk with them? How do you communicate with them? How do you walk with angels? Everything is ready for you to use, to enjoy, and to make the best out of it.
And again, if there's almost everything we spoke about today, we've had a previous episode that gets deeper into it. Like I said before, the evil eye, angels, the sleep, all that stuff. It's in the archives.
Previously on the Weekly Energy Boost.
Exactly. So to that point, if we spoke about anything that you do want more information about, please email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. I get emails all week long there. Don't be afraid. You're also welcome to follow us on Instagram, Weekly Energy Boost, Facebook, Weekly Energy Boost. We're on the Kabbalah Center's YouTube page if you want to watch episodes live and type in your comments and questions for us. We're really everywhere podcasts can be found. And lastly, I do want to mention that throughout this month, we have a special offer for our listeners. You can find that offer at weeklyenergyboost.com. That's our webpage. On the front page, you'll see there's a great book that I read from last week that we're offering for our listeners to have I think it's a 20% discount. And as always, your comments, your ratings, your reviews. If you're listening on the podcast now, please give us a review and a rating. Your comments, your questions, your feedback, that's really what helps us grow. And of course, most importantly, sharing it. I bet every single one of us has a friend who consciously or unconsciously lets other people take their energy, and then they wonder why they're not making progress in the important things in their life. So send them this episode, and
Yeah, sharing definitely helps.
sharing helps with everything. Unconditional happiness and sharing. Until next week, have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Weekly Energy Boost.